Although he's never sailed before, and he's never built a boat, for nearly every day over the past 6 years, Steve and his friends have been turning trees into a vessel named Arabella that will someday carry them anywhere in the world. This week, KP and Steve will fit the Carlins and beams that support the housetop, which means that some final decisions need to be made about the placement of the butterfly hatch for light into the cabin, which depends on where the tender will sit while underway, which in turn is affected by the design of the Companionway opening. Last week they picked out the locust stock and roughed out the beams and Carlins. And the first task for today is to get all of the beams down to a similar size before they go onto the boat.
So if we were to attach all of these together and then just plane the top and plane the inside smooth and fair, they'll all be the same. And what I'm saying is if we make the crown a little more or a little less or whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The pattern was a bit rough.
Yep.
I carved them out on the bandsaw. I left everything a little wide. And then the other thing is these are cut out of sweeps. So as I was cutting them out, they were all changing shapes.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like even
your energy.
Yeah, exactly. So even if I had like patterned them out and cut them meticulously,
They'd be
they'd
different.
still look similar to what they look like
Right.
now.
Right.
There's just no point in fighting it.
No.
But I think if we did them all together in a batch, I think we would be in pretty good shape. So we go like that, and then we can like screw these two together, then screw this one to that one, and that one to that one, and
Okay.
work our way up on
All
the
right.
very
All right.
ends.
It's a little proud, isn't it?
That one's real proud. Yep. I'm gonna go grab a bar clamp, and I think we'll just put it in the middle.
Yeah.
Clamp them all tight, and then we can grab a power planer and just go to town.
Why is it screwed together?
Well, we want to keep this curve, and we want all these to be the same. So we screw them together in one batch. And Casey just took the power planer underneath. See how it's all flat under here? We're going to try to do the same thing to this side. But we can't use the power planer, because if you look at that, it hits here and here, and there's a gap. The blade's right there, and it doesn't touch the wood.
Yeah, because if it's like spinning, it won't
hit.
take off anything.
Exactly. So we have to find a different tool, and we think this grinder with the really coarse sanding disc will be the trick. Make sense?
Yeah.
In the boathouse, Steve got out the last of the oak rootstock knees to become part of the housetop structure. By the end of the episode, this will end up supporting a beam that lands right above the galley. The next step for these beams is to figure out exactly where each one will go. But first, a check-in on the steam bending test of the locust covering boards from last week, which didn't go as well as hoped.
Well, we found the limit of the black locust and our very weak steam bending system, which can be improved significantly. But the first quarter it got the most steam. I think we can use it. And we went far with this. What did we go, 10 inches?
Yeah, we were like 11 inches from the frames, and I think we finished within like an inch of the frames. Yeah, so we bent it in, and it wasn't till we were done, and it was sitting there for a little while.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple
Steam
light
was off,
cracks.
started cooling, contracted just enough to give way. And then once it started, there's no stopping it.
No, once it started, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
We just watched it and cried. Not really.
So if we ask this plank to say go 6 inches instead of 10,
And add more steam.
I think we'll be okay.
I think so.
And Andrew, he has the steam.
The super steamer.
I think the
It's
super steamer is gonna be
Andrew
key.
of Restoring Rosalind.
Yes, yeah, Andrew Guest of Restoring Rosalind. So that Cornish lugger that he's working on has just insane twist in the stern. It makes Arabella's stern look straight-sided. It's unbelievable. So he's had to steam the living ever daylights out of his planks to get them to do that twist. So he's been honing the craft for a while. Well, shall we keep working on house Carlins?
Let's fit these puppies.
Back to the housetop framing. With the curved beams waiting for the next step, it's time to figure out the corresponding bevel on the Carlins.
That's it. Angle looks good.
KP and I went yesterday and started to fit these fore and aft Carlins and realized that I made a real rookie mistake. So I made the Carlins the same depth as the beams, but the beams come in at an angle that ends up creating this lip. So we'd either have to take too much meat off of the arched Carlins going port to starboard, or we would have to set them down and notch something off the bottom. None of those are really great options. So most of today was spent opening the locust pile and digging through it. We don't have a ton of locust left, and we got to be really conscientious of how we use it. Blackfly season has begun. So we need to take some of the big stocks, slice some smaller pieces off the sides, still making sure that we have material for covering boards and king planks. Thickness that, square it up, thickness it some more, And now we are down to the appropriate sized beams here, so that when these come in, we still have a little bit of meat below, which is what we would like to see, and we have a little bit to play with. This was a pretty time-consuming whoopsie, but we got that fixed. KP's laughing at me here. But we got that fixed. I have a couple things that I need to take care of tomorrow, but these are in a position now that KP can start to get those fit. And then we can get these fore and aft Carlins, or these port to starboard Carlins rather, put in. But the first bit will be to get the fore and aft ones installed.
Check for level one more time. Okay, great. Like a glove. I made the housetop support beams that fit fore and aft to support the Carlins. Made the bevel, fit all the pieces, made sure the bulkheads are level. Luckily, we had enough black locust to get the dimensions we needed, and we'll still have enough for the covering boards, the king planks, and some rub rails.
Nice job on getting these fore and aft Carlins fit.
Thanks.
These look good. So we've got our forwardmost, our aftmost, our doubling where the traveler's gonna go,
Yep.
forward end of the head, and then the last one we need to do is the middle of the house here. I think maybe we should go grab the plans that we're thinking of for the tender and see if there's a real obvious place for that hatch to land. Like, do we want to land the hatch back here? Do we want to land it center? Do we want to land it more forward? Because, I mean, there's reasons for any of it with the boat, but I think the biggest one's going to be how it fits with the tender. Because if that hatch is right where the seat or the centerboard or something wants to be, it's going to be a nightmare. So when we put the tender on the housetop, it's going to get flipped upside down. Mm-hmm. And let's see, the centerboard and the seats are what we need to land around. So if we put the hatch in the forward end of that house, we're going to contend with the centerboard and that forward seat. And this scale is what? 1.5 to a foot?
Yeah.
So So we don't even have 2 feet
No.
forward. That would be a pretty small hatch.
Yeah.
But between the 2 seats and the stern, we certainly have it.
There's
'Cause
over
that's-
2
There's
feet.
almost 3 feet, 2.5 feet.
Yeah.
And then this is just the half breadth. So width is even more.
Yep.
We could conceivably put another
A
smaller
second
hatch
I was thinking
forward.
that too.
And this one we could,
18 inches or something.
yeah, and we don't necessarily have to make it a butterfly. We could just make it a standard hatch with
Sure.
like a clear top on it that you
Yep.
can pop open, gain some more ventilation, but honestly more sunlight.
More light,
Right,
for
yeah.
sure. I mean, not that it'll get a ton of light since it's under the dinghy, but he'll get some. The more light, the better. The more ventilation, the better.
Yeah. How big should the companionway hatch opening be?
36. Right there. So, hatch.
And it didn't hit my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this seems good. Like,
It's kind of nice to lay against it sometimes too.
yeah, you can lean back against it here off that top step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that feels decent.
Okay.
Do you want to try?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think 33 is good.
Yeah, I think that feels good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want it just to slide and be exposed and open, or slide and recess into a box?
Probably slide and recess into a box.
Yeah.
From my understanding, it's
That's-
a lot more weather tight.
Exactly. Woo, yeah.
It's windy today.
Speaking of weather tight.
Well, it is almost lunchtime, and we've marked out a couple Carlins, and I got my tools sharpened. I love these days. I love them. You're like, beat your head against the wall all day long, and
All we wanted to do was map out this center Carlin,
Yep.
and all we needed to figure was the butterfly hatch. But then we needed to back up to figure out where the tender that we don't have fits. But in order to do that, we needed to figure out where the hatch slide goes back. But in order to do that, we need to figure out how to make the box in which the hatch companionway slide fits into. And so now we are knee deep in hungry.
yep.
Woo!
As Ann would say, the fridge bone's connected to the sink bone, which is connected to the battery bone, which is connected to the engine bone.
Exactly. Yeah. So pause on the calculating and figuring.
And I will go
Leave out this Carlin.
to the library in the house and crack open the books and see how many hundreds of ways there are to design a hatch. The higher it is, the farther aft it can be. Because if we put like a little doghouse kind of style here, we can bring it back even farther because ducking down's not an issue. It's that when you come to these lower steps, that it brings you forward.
Right.
And if
If it's high.
it's already high, you're fine. You could have the low under the deck. You could have a little bit higher, and you could be underneath. The slide itself could end up being a lot smaller.
How the heck have you gotten this far? Oh my God. Kudos. Keep it up.
Thanks. Yeah. I more and more understand why people do restorations. And like you just
Because
do
you-
what's there.
Right. You
So you're
have
like, this
some.
is how the hatch was made, so we're gonna remake the hatch.
Right.
Where-
You have something to work with, or at least you say, oh well, this we're going to do a variation from this, but
Yeah.
there's a point from which to deviate. Versus like, all of our options are before us.
Yeah, Acorn doesn't give you anything for the
No, he
Companionway,
doesn't.
like at all.
Nope.
No. There's
Make
like
it-
rails and a lid, and it's
Make it
it's
open
complete
and make
mystery.
it slide.
Yeah.
Cool. God.
are much more confident with that tool than I am.
I love that tool.
Yeah, you'll cut right to the line, and I'm not as confident with that thing.
It's a little risky, but this thing is the ticket. Because you can, once you chisel out the corner, you can come in sort of from underneath and not overcut. You know, we all have our ways.
I'm getting the companionway here figured out now that I've got the main beam in there that's going to support the Traveler, hence the oak knee on one end. And that is the last of the oak rootstock knees. There's no more of those, and we had exactly the right amount. So it's always nice when things work out that way. And now that that's in, we can get the companionway area here more defined. If you remember when I milled up the fore and aft sections here for the framing for the housetop, I milled them too small. We had to go through the pile and cut some more locust and mill some more up. And that worked out actually okay because they work perfectly for these fore and aft framing here. It doesn't need to be quite as diesel and robust as it does on the sides. It's much smaller, shorter runs, and they're not supporting quite as much loads. So this one says most forward up on starboard, and so that was up there, and now it's going to come back here. Nothing goes to waste. I'm going to move these outboard a little bit. I've been playing with it. KP arrived this morning. We chatted about it for a minute, and I think grabbing the handles here when you go down the companionway, having these outboard just another inch or so is going to make a big difference. Acorn has the companionway drawn at like 22 inches wide. It's really narrow. And as a full-time liveaboard, I'd rather not be trying to squeeze down a tight companionway. So we're gonna bump this out just a little bit more so that grabbing these is comfortable and you're not hitting your wrists as much. I'd like to be able to run your hands on top here. And right now I'm just rubbing against these. I think if they go out another inch, that'll be nice, and it'll make the companionway just a little wider. And then this height here feels nice. You can stand here and be braced really well. You can lean forward. So I think this will feel big enough to come in and out of comfortably, but small enough to feel secure in. If you're taller, you might have to watch this as you're coming through, as KP demonstrated earlier, but I think it'll work out. Cool. And while I'm doing that, KP's working on finishing the last of the framing up forward.
Next week, all these Carlins and beams get their final sand and finish. Also, the fridge finally receives its components and gets powered up for the first time. And we'll have some footage from the open house to share. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like the video and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Also, it was Steve's birthday this week, so take a sec to wish him a happy belated in the comments. Have a great next week, and hope to have you all back again next Friday.
You ready for the open house?
I'm so ready for the open house. Are you ready for the open house?
No, it's tomorrow. I've experienced this always one day. I've never done back to back, and I'm like slightly terrified.
It's bring on your extrovert.
Extrovert, yeah, I don't have much of that, but I'm gonna dig deep for it.
You get it. You get it.
So we hope that folks come around this weekend for the open house. If you can't make the open house this weekend, we're gonna go live both days. So Saturday and Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern time, we'll go live.
1 to 2.
And if you do come, be real considerate about parking. Look for the parking attendants. Please follow their directions. Parking is going to be our largest logistical hurdle, so please help us with that. And we're getting the shop cleaned up and getting ready for everybody. And you'll be able to see some things that you haven't quite seen in the videos yet. So we hope to see you there. And we are also going to be doing the plank signing. So right now there's like 100, 150 signature spots left. So if you're interested in having your signature or a tiny note put on the plank before it goes onto the boat, we've got space on the last 2 planks. And get in there quick, because I think at the open house, the slots are going to go real, real fast.
Quick.